carried stockmen. They carried soldiers. They carried legends from Beersheba to the mountains of the high country. The thunder herd still rides. Skies and snow gums bow in winter light. 1,000 shadows cross the dawn, their wild hearts burning through the night. Their blood remembers campfire smoke, long dusty trails and stockmen's hands. The freedom of a younger world still running through this ancient land. Listen. The mountains know their language. Listen. The valleys speak their names. They are the thunder rolling beneath the southern sky. From Beersheba's fields of glory to the mountains standing high, no chains can hold them. No walls contain them. The spirit of the light horse rides. They are the thunder herd, and the mountains know their names. Across the burning Sinai sands, they carry fate in steady hands. Through dust and fire they thundered on toward Beersheba's fateful dawn. Horse and rider forged as one, a rolling wave against the guns. The desert shook beneath their stride as Australia rose in pride. They are the thunder herd, rolling beneath the southern sky. From Beersheba's fields of glory to the mountains standing high, no chains can hold them, no walls contain them. The spirit of the light horse ride. They are the thunder herd, and the mountains know their name. And standing on the highest ridges, when the world below has gone to sleep, the ancient stallions face the darkness, guarding secrets they still keep. They remember every stockman, every drover, every mountain horseman, every charge, every rider who never came home, every horse who carried him there. Ride on. Ride on. Ride on. They are the thunder, the heartbeat of the southern land. The wild soul of Australia. The wild soul of Australia. The oath that time has never bent. When lightning crowns the mountain peaks and storm clouds gather dark and wide, the spirits of the old light horse still ride beside their stride. No king commands them, no empire owns them, for freedom runs within their blood, as surely as rivers shape the land. They are the thunder herd, and they still ride, and they still ride. From Beersheba to the high country, the thunder herd still rides.
Hey, good morning. Well, the South Australian grid has gone back to curtailment, which means they're disposing of energy that is excess to their use, and that's on top of only a few days ago where they were completely short of energy. This is not a suitable way to power the Australian nation. It's not a suitable way to power our refineries, our industry, and power homes right across Australia. We absolutely must do better. They reliably tell me that the capacity investment scheme has cost Australia so far $73 billion. And we still have an unreliable system, which is short of electricity some days, some hours, and surplus electricity in others. Is this really how we want to run Australia? A high-cost electrical system that's unsuitable for use? Let's do a whole lot better than this. It's Ross Johns here from the Wimmera Mallee Environmental and Agricultural Protection Association. Enjoy your day.
And a very good morning. It's what a beautiful morning on the Gold Coast. We just got back the other day, by the way. We didn't do a show yesterday because of the long drive back from Tumbarumba. But I have to say, we'll talk more about that later. Just what a fantastic event that was. The people in Tumbarumba are just magnificent. The organisers, absolutely stunning. It was a whole lot of fun. An eye opener. Met some magnificent people, and it shows you that Australia has these great pockets of the dinky-die Australian, those that made the country great. And I appreciate it too, by the way. Before we get into our show, some of the news that's making news around the world and also Australia. South Koreans have been asked to immediately stop all outdoor activities as a brutal heat wave sweeps through part of Asia, with local temperatures reaching record-breaking peaks. So says the news, but really they're having the hottest days for about 100 years, a bit over 100 years. But can you see there what they want you to do? They want you to panic. They want chaos to set in. That's all it is. Just want you to panic and do what government says. A bit like the old COVID, panic. Got to show videos of people collapsing in the street, all that sort of garbage. Okay, now the next federal election may not be a two-horse race between Labor and the coalition, with new polling putting One Nation ahead of the Libs in primary support. Polling conducted by Roy Morgan discovered that if a federal election were held now, the Labor Party would win a majority against either One Nation or the coalition, which is just incredible. Can you believe it? Labor could still win. And the same thing in Victoria. It's not over yet. It should be, but it's not over yet. And who knows what's going to happen in Victoria. We'll find out fairly soon, I would think. And Australia has recorded its first mass mortality event caused by the H5N1 bird flu, with 74 cases confirmed across the country. Now let's be sensible about this. 74 cases, okay? 74 birds have fallen off the perch, so to speak. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at those poor birds. But anyway, 74 birds. Now, in the country there would be, 1 billion, 2 billion, squillions and squillions of birds. And as Peter McCullough said, why not let natural immunity take place? Very much like the olden days, isn't it? The days of got to get that jab, you'll die. Safe and effective, sudden and unexpected was the new slogan for it. Now, Instant Polls is our official sponsor. If you want to increase your bottom line, boost your communication with your frontline staff and gather valuable data from your most important resource, that's your employees, then don't forget visit Instantpolls.online to learn more. Now, this week's poll on the Country Telegraph is, do you believe government and environmental organisations provide accurate information about feral animals? And I'm just thinking, why are they calling horses feral? Anyway, just use the QR code on our screen to vote. Each vote is secure and anonymous and verified by 2FA. You'll have a week to vote before the result is broadcast on the Country Telegraph after 8 a.m. next Monday. Now, the link will also be published on our Facebook page this morning. Share the link and ask your family and friends to participate. It's a very good poll, this one too. And don't forget, in about 40 minutes' time, or maybe a little bit more, we'll have the results from last week's poll. So make your opinion count. This is the Country Telegraph.
Hi everyone, in case you don't know who we are, I'm Sam.
And I'm Molly from Aussie Hay Runners.
As you know, there's a lot of discussion about at the moment of the culling of the Brumbies in our national parks.
We just want to make one thing clear about our Brumby run on the 15th of August.
Aussie Hay Runners are not affiliated with any government organisations and we will not be entering any national park.
We will be delivering hay and essential needs to the volunteers who are helping these beautiful creatures.
Whatever your views are on the broader issue, these animals play a unique role in our Australian history.
Our focus is simple, helping where help is needed. This includes helping our volunteers who dedicate their time, energy and resources.
This convoy is only possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters.
Thank you for your donations and your continuous support.
Bull 7 Veterinary Clinic and Yarra Valley Veterinary Surgery is helping collect supplies for the rehabilitation works of these horses.
Every donation, big and small, is appreciated.
We're proud and passionate Australians who believe in lending a hand when it's needed most.
Thank you for all your support and we'll keep you updated as our convoy gets underway. Thank you.
And thank you too. It's funny. I've only been away for a couple of days. I feel like it's been 10 years. This is the Country Telegraph. Next up, we'll talk to someone who knows all about how to look after the soil, how to look after the future. And he lives in a very cold part of the world too, but don't let that deter you. Coming up next, we'll talk all about that and more. This is the Country Telegraph.
Mount Isa, as we can feel the pressure, these cowboys can harness the energy, they can feel the excitement. Think about what's going through this cowboy's mind.
The gate opens and you see the bull coming out. Honestly, I just hear silence. Seven different emotions go through you in about 10 seconds and then they go on repeat.
This is when it hits another level of energy.
To be a rodeo cowboy, you want a bit of gravel in your gut.
Typical cowboy, obviously half mad.
From England's green and rolling hills to Australia's dusty plains, our stories ride on faithful hearts through sunshine, wind and rain. The Brumbies run where legends live, where freedom still belongs. Across the seas our voices rise, together we are strong. We're Brumbies strong, we're riding on from Britain to Australia's dawn. With every hoof upon the land we'll stand together hand in hand. For every colt and every mare we'll lift them up with love and care. Queen Camilla, hear our song, help keep the Brumbies running strong. There's a Palomino Madigai, proud and free, golden in the morning light, a living piece of history. Still fighting for the right to roam the mountains, cross the streams, beneath the southern sky. Don't let these noble spirits fade. Don't let their story die. We're Brumby strong, we're riding on from Britain to Australia's dawn. With every hoof upon the land, we'll stand together hand in hand. For every colt and every mare, we'll lift them up with love and care. Queen Camilla, hear our song, help keep the Brumbies running strong. No border keeps compassion still, no ocean stops a prayer. When people stand for something right, there's always hope to share. The heritage we save today will live for years to come. So let the Brumbies lead the way beneath Australia's sun. We're Brumby strong, we're riding on. Across the world our hearts are one. From London's light to mountain skies, we'll never let their spirit die. For every child who dreams they'll see the wild horse running proud and free. Queen Camilla, hear our plea, help save Australia's heritage. We're Brumby strong, forever free.
Hi everyone, Emma Bowman here, standing at the Sandy Lane, the main energy hub for the Central West Orana Res. That is all the infrastructure that you can see behind me. Further to the north of that is the accommodation camp. Now, if you're wondering what it's like to live in this area, prepare yourself for a massive influx in traffic. The camp running on diesel generators 24/7, pollution into your river, which we've already had water running off the construction site into the Talbragar River. And if you think that you are going to get lots of local jobs, lots of money spent in the region, think again. The accommodation camp here at Marothery will be for 1,200 people when it is fully constructed. It has a full kitchen, wet mess, football field, undercover sports field, gym. Why would you need to go anywhere else when you've got better services than our towns have?
So many places where they're using 1080 poison baits.
Yeah, it's an absolute travesty, mate.
It really is.
1080 baits, if you've seen what a 1080 bait does to a dog, it's one of the most horrific things you'll ever witness. And the second you see something like that, you'll be a big advocate for getting rid of 1080 baits. It's not the way to solve the problem with wild dogs and foxes and things like that.
On Sunday, August the 30th, I got a phone call from my husband. I wasn't here, I was out in Aramac staying with family. And he rang me very distressed and crying on the phone and told me that Tippy was dead. And he then described to me how that happened. He said he was inside, heard Tippy outside yelping, which progressively went and rapidly went to screaming, and he was thrashing him, throwing himself around. He went under my car, which is parked on the veranda in a carport, threw himself under the car and up under the wheel arch, obviously looking for sanctuary. Greg tried to grab him and got hold of his leg, and as he did that, he just dropped dead. So he rang me and told me about this, so I was obviously quite distraught as well. And then he had to go into town, into Bundaberg, to pick up for a pre-arranged appointment. And when he came home a couple of hours later, Faye, our Maremma dog, was also dead. So within a couple of hours, we're not sure, any time between 9:30 and midday is when she died on that morning. So yeah, Greg took them to bury them, and he took Ted with him when he buried these two dogs, and Ted was there with him. And after Greg finished burying them, he wouldn't leave. He just laid, he sat, moved around. He wouldn't leave the gravesite. So Greg had to literally pick him up and take him away. So he knew his mates were in there. So yeah, sorry.
1080 is not a humane poison, and despite people's claims that it is humane, we now recognise that that's not the case. It's not good enough to pretend to ourselves that it's humane and keep on doing the same old thing that we've been doing for years. There's no excuse to keep on using a poison that is not humane and that we know is not humane.
Conservationist Stephen Nowakowski and academic Tim Navard have mapped over $1.38 trillion in so-called green projects across Australia, including 31,000 wind turbines, 550 million solar panels and more than 28,000 kilometres of new transmission lines, with thousands more running undersea and across protected wilderness. Turbines run only 30 to 40% of the time, panels just 18 to 25%, demanding vast overbuilding and replacement every few decades. Nowakowski calls it hypocrisy of the highest order. Untouched mountain forests now being bulldozed in the name of green energy. After decades documenting the outback, he says he's never seen a threat like this. Dead birds, bats, even endangered species lying beneath the blades.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. A couple of issues there. We just move on now. We're like a sushi train. Not really. Although sushi could be quite good if you knew sushi, like I knew sushi. Anastasia Tadievska has worked as a campaigner on a number of social issues, including creating a fairer welfare state, enabling a fair and fast energy transition, and promoting citizen participation in democracy. As a founding member of Legal Observers New South Wales, she helped lead the campaign against New South Wales 2022 anti-protest laws and worked with grassroots communities to widen the space for democratic expression. Having experienced the importance of community involvement in political action in her native Ukraine, she's passionate about ensuring communities are empowered to have a say in the issues that matter to them. First of all, Anastasia, thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Mike. Thank you.
Tell me about the Australian Democracy Network.
Yeah, so we are a not-for-profit organisation that works to widen the space for citizen participation, as your bio mentioned. So we work on a number of issues, including things like unequal access to political influence, big money in politics, lobbyist access, and I work on the freedom to assemble, so the freedom of people to have a say on things in their local communities, nationally, etc.
And I've noticed this, but I want to get your views. I think our right to protest is just being eroded. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, we've certainly seen a surge in laws that really restrict how people can come together and have a say around Australia. There's been over 50 laws passed in the last 2 decades about this. It seems like every time that a protest is in the news, governments want to pass some kind of laws restricting it. And we're really seeing it reach across Australia. So we've had a number of rural and regional protests that have faced issues with councils and people who have found themselves thinking that they have a right to protest and suddenly finding out that that right isn't quite as protected as we might imagine in a place like Australia.
Which is really interesting. I mean, when I went to school, we had electricity, contrary to what others might think. No, but I'm just thinking, we were always taught to question, why, if somebody says something, just ask why. Ask the questions. Nowadays, especially with the younger ones, I have to say that there's a great number who don't ask questions, just go along, do what they're told, which sort of fits and falls into place with the lack of opportunities, I suppose you could say, to protest. Why is this happening? Is it? And we often hear about the 2030 agenda and the evil WEF and the equally evil UN and all those, WHO and all that sort of stuff. If you curtail objections or people having a say, saying we don't like that as a community, it would probably point that before too long we're going to be living in a very, very dystopian world, aren't we?
It is a slippery slope issue, because often the way that these restrictions get argued into law is saying, well, we needed to keep people safe and people can't be trusted to go out on the streets and, not cause a riot or whatever it might be, or the idea that some obstruction to traffic is going to bring the whole city down. I think often the way that communities are talked about by governments is often quite condescending when it comes to this issue. There's this idea that people can't manage a march through the city by themselves, or people can't manage a protest in a local park in places like Bathurst by themselves, which was an issue we just had last week. So really, I think it's a fundamental, a lack of respect for people's capacity to actually, know what they're doing, and to trust that when people come together to have their voices heard, they're doing that for a reason, that it's important, and it's important to hear them and support them in doing so, rather than trying to shut it down. So yeah, I think a lot of it is like a risk management kind of idea that has just gotten into every part of government. Other things are just, there's a sense in which if it becomes too politically inconvenient to hear something, it can be more, there's more pressure on governments to shut down those protests as well.
Yeah, I think isn't it funny how in this day and age we do not want to hear the other side. I mean, even when we ran a story on the ISC, which I think is a terrible organisation, the Invasive Species Council, and truly the first night we put out a report, we get this message saying, you must remove all your stuff, never use that platform again. You must call Jack Goff. And I thought, that's really interesting. And then we have people within, the Brumby movement who would like us to shut up too. Don't talk about that. Don't do that. It's sort of permeating, isn't it, throughout the whole of society, our tolerance for hearing someone else's opinion, which is how we got to this point of time, by the way. It's just diminishing, and that's very scary. I mean, you don't have to be a democratic society to notice how scary it is. Just look around in other parts of the world. In China, we have, you can say what you like, providing you don't criticise. And other parts, you know yourself from Ukraine. If you say something that the government or your enemies don't like, you're in deep trouble. We've got to be very careful, because I see that happening here. If you look at, even in the US, yes, we have free speech, but we're going to make sure that you only say what we want you to say. Look at the UK and under Starmer. Now they've got this other guy there who will probably just be as bad. Why is this happening? Why do you think we're getting to this point of that our tolerance for another opinion? I mean, look at COVID. There's another one for you. You weren't allowed to talk about it. The medical profession was not allowed to talk about COVID. Scientists could not talk about it. If you talked about it and disagreed, they couldn't disagree with what you were saying, but they could try and discredit you. And it was amazing. Like Peter McCullough, I mentioned before, one of the great medical minds in the world, and he had people who drove trucks saying that he didn't know what he was talking about, because he was discredited so badly. So why are we getting to this point? It's very scary. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it starts with the fact that governments have to take leadership in showing that having discussion and debate is key to a healthy democracy, right? Like, what does democracy mean other than people being able to come together and talk to one another and say, okay, on the basis of our discussions and informed opinions, what do we believe? And you've mentioned, a lot of those international examples where the restrictions are very obvious and in your face. I think one of the issues with Australia is that it's a bit of that, frog in a boiling pot situation where things can look quite innocuous. So, for example, we had the issues last week with the folks trying to organise the Brumby rallies all around Australia, who were told by councils they have to take out public liability insurance for $20 million in order to have the rally. And you could say, okay, well, that's just a council bureaucratic requirement. They're not quite, being met with police, guns in the street, etc. But the issue is when things like that go unopposed or unchallenged, it gives councils, governments, etc., the sense that the public coming together isn't actually a core function of our democracy. And we see that being repeated, in the major cities where people who are trying to protest are being met with quite significant police use of force. So yeah, I think it's the fact that when small incidents of it don't go recognized as an unfair restriction on our democratic rights, that's when you set yourself up for things getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it was interesting with the Brumby rallies. Some had, we're at Tumbarumba, and they locked the front gate so you couldn't enter from the street. And there was a reason apparently for that, because of the heavy trucks going down the main stretch. We didn't want anybody squished like a crepe. So I understood that part, but they made the showgrounds available and it was pretty good, but that's a different community. Why do you think governments were, not up in arms, is it over zealous probably term there, but they didn't want these rallies really to happen. Was that just because there goes another rally, another protest, we better make sure that they behave themselves? Or do you think because, I've often said, and I believe I'm true, that this is all the Brumby annihilation, the control of the Kosciuszko National Park by, and I've referred to them as militia from Ukraine almost, the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Then you have the Snowy 2, you have the renewables and so forth. And I think they're all connected. And I think it's all about money. We're not talking about millions or billions, we're talking about trillions of dollars. Do you think all this is tied up with, and some say it's a quest to make the country a better place to live in. Others, believe it is just purely about a financial opportunity. And they have no souls, no hearts. And they're happy enough to go along with the masses of other government or NGOs. Just go along and do what we're told to do, and we're happy for that. Why do you think this is happening? Do you think it is? It's all tied up with money, because you seem a pretty smart person. I don't understand this annihilation of the Brumby, because they're not doing this environmental damage that they're going on with, and the propaganda. And you saw it in same thing in Ukraine. Information operations are very, very important to sway a particular belief, whether you're in Moscow or Kiev, or whether you're in Munich or whatever. You got to have that information operation to make sure they're behind you. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, my focus is on the protest part of it specifically, but I would say when it comes to the money question there, councils, the justification that they gave for needing public liability insurance is, well, if someone, falls over in a park during a rally, then we're going to be sued for it, potentially. And the issue when you let that become the standard is that basically all public activities on council land are going to require a council permit. And I think in this case, and in most cases, it's not really discriminatory in accordance with the issue. It's that the standard, the standard that you walk past is the standard you accept. So people from, who are rallying on all kinds of issues have faced the council hurdle before. In the Northern Territory, there was a First Nations rally that had to pay $8,000 for traffic control to the Darwin City Council, because they said, we're not going to give you a permit to do a march unless you do that. And we've seen it in councils around Australia for other issues as well. So I think it's been a steady creep. And now we're just seeing it, impact these rallies, and who knows what other rallies in the future, or just people even trying to come together to have a public meeting, because that's what the legislation covers, is just a public meeting needs a permit in New South Wales on council land. So what we're looking at is really, how do you make these kind of systems fair to the people participating in them? Because I think the other thing with the rallies last week is a lot of these folks were people who are organising something like this for the first time, which is, it's great that people are getting involved in democratic issues. But when you're sent, communication from a council saying you have to do X, Y, Z, you don't necessarily have the knowledge and confidence about those rules. You're not going to go into, the 60, 50-page council bylaw documents and find out what you're meant to be doing. Like, it's just the bureaucratic red tape kind of thing that becomes a sort of suppression of protest by default. So what we really need is just a very clear statement that this is a core part of our democracy. It needs to be protected. Councils should facilitate protest instead of trying to, by proxy, intimidate people out of it by pointing to these unreasonable financial requirements.
Can you give me an example of the how expensive public liability insurance is, and considering that the people organising these things were, they're not that experienced in insurance matters and stuff like that. They're just trying to do something good.
Yeah, so what we heard from speaking to people involved was that someone was quoted $2,000 for the public liability insurance, which was provided through council. Another person was quoted $1,000. And mind you, this is probably for a 2-3 hour max one-time meeting. It just lasts for the event. It's not like a thing you can take out for the whole year if you're not an organization. So that's obviously a pretty high price tag to put on being able to have your voice heard.
Can you, I just want to know, so it doesn't really matter, I suppose, what size, would that be correct?
What size of rally?
Yeah, what size, if there's a rally there, if there's like 6 people or 50 people.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So what about those who have families that go there for a picnic? You have 10 people. Do they have to pay insurance?
Well, it begs the question, doesn't it? It does beg the question. It almost seems like when you tell the council that you're doing something political, there's another rule for you versus doing the exact same number of people gathering in a park for a non-political reason. So, yeah, it's questionable why councils have chosen to enforce it in that way.
And it takes me right back to what I was saying before. I think it's just censorship and it's control. And anybody that wants to question authority, we're going to make it bloody hard for you. Tell me, what do you think the best approach is if you're planning a rally?
Yeah, so the best practice for these kinds of systems, which the point of giving authorities notification of a rally is ideally so that they can support that to happen. So things like making sure there's not, traffic. You mentioned the traffic management issue yourself. People want to make sure that they're working reasonably with the needs of others in the community. And these systems that are normally called notification systems should aim to do that. So they should provide every incentive for people to get in touch with authorities and say, hey, I'm doing X, Y, Z. Can you help facilitate it? The issue is when those systems turn into authorization systems. So when you need a permit to protest, that's when it becomes something that people don't want to participate in. One, because if they tell authorities about their rally, they could get penalized, which is what we sort of saw happen with some of these Brumby Council interactions. And two, it means that people are more likely to be met with a show of force if they haven't complied with various authorization and other permit requirements, which necessarily has a chilling effect. So the best practice is to have a system that encourages people to notify authorities, say, okay, give us notification of a rally if you can. Here's how you can get in touch with police, etc., and have a conversation with them. And make sure that this can take place in a way that works for everyone. And to not have penalties attached to not engaging in that. And the other thing is also that we need to have some room for spontaneous protests, right? It's just not always going to be practical to tell police if something has happened, if something is urgent, if the organizers they might not know that there's a way to get in touch with authorities. There has to be some accommodation for spontaneous rallies within those systems as well, which we do see in similar systems in places like the UK. So having basically designing the system around the question of what will make people more likely to talk to authorities and make sure that they can work together.
A great pity, because if you go back to the suppose, late 60s, 70s, and then onward, protests, I mean, they're a bit boisterous, a bit loud, no real damage done, except for those that don't agree, because they got a louder voice than you then, and it's like, I don't want to hear that. They should be stopped. You know, whether it's Gaza or whether whatever. I think part of a democracy is the right to have a collective voice and to say something, that if you don't agree with something, providing you're peaceful, you can be noisy, you're allowed to be noisy. They do that at football, so you can do it in a protest. Then protests should be allowed, and we should encourage it, because we need to always question, you know, what's happening, why it's happening, you know, where it's going, all that sort of stuff. We need to actually question. Anastasia, if somebody wants to find out more about your organisation, how do they do that?
Yeah, where they can visit our website, australiandemocracynetwork.org.au. We're also on Instagram, and we have actually a newsletter that I send out every 2 months with updates about what's happening in protest rights around the country. So it's called the Protest Rights Wrap. So welcome to subscribe to that.
Absolutely brilliant. Look, I appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on. I have a billion more questions I'd like to ask you, so we probably will extend the invitation for another conflab between you and I, because, I mean, the erosion of our rights, and it is happening. Look at the farmers, as one example. We need to ensure that we maintain democracy as we should, and we need to. And you've had experience of that. You need to. We need to guard it with our lives. Otherwise, you'll end up in a war, and we don't want that, do we? Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it very much. This is the Country Telegraph.
The snowy mountains, a vast, untamed wilderness where, for over 2 centuries, a remarkable creature has carved out a life against the harsh realities of nature. The wild Brumby. These majestic herds, bonded by blood and fierce loyalty, are a living piece of our heritage. They wake with the sun, navigating the rugged terrain with a grace that has come to define the very spirit of the high country. But today, the silence of this sanctuary is broken, not by the forces of nature, but by the hand of man. A shadow has fallen over Kosciuszko. A 3-month aerial shooting campaign has begun. Imagine the terror, driven from the shelter of the bush by quad bikes, forced directly into the open and into the firing line of helicopters. These family units running to the point of utter exhaustion, desperate to protect their young, only to face an agonizing end. Trapping operations have been halted, humane rehoming efforts silenced. This is no longer management. It is a tragedy unfolding in the heart of our wilderness. Around the world, other nations have found another way. Humane alternatives exist, paths of compassion that respect both the land and the lives within it. Millions of dollars, now spent on eradication, could instead fund a gentler, more civilized future. The heritage of these wild horses cannot be reduced to a line item in a budget. The world is watching. We cannot let silence stand for cruelty. The Australian Labor government must hear our collective voice before the high country falls permanently silent. Stand for those who cannot speak for themselves.
We need to talk about a situation that's been developing in Australia. How our government has been fed lies and now we are facing failure. Our native horses being shot from helicopters and they call this humane. 15 bullets is called overkill, yet some of them take days to die. While our native horses are being shot from the skies, our politicians spin more lies. The numbers they've been fed comes from muddling on rabbits. The politicians swan around and call us stupid Brumby advocates. We have to fight to save the Brumbies. The numbers are dwindling to the ground. I will never stop until we move them from this living hell. Otherwise, there will be no more around. I've written near on 40 pages now and submitted it to court, talking about how inhumane it is for horse to take days to die. We are in 2026, what the fuck is wrong with us that a cognitive neuroscientist has to write a report explaining why it's inhumane to leave an animal to die? The ISC say Brumby Brumbies are killing our environment, while Snowy 2.0 is having oopsies. Tell me who kills the environment more, us or them? We have to fight to save the Brumbies. Their numbers are dwindling to the ground. I will never stop until we move them from this living hell. Otherwise, there will be no more around. I'm starting to regret being an Australian, because everything I've seen from this government lately is everything that is wrong with man. I will not stop, I will not lay down. I will come marching for you with my intelligence and my arguments and anything I can. If you're with us, then stay with us. Don't fight amongst yourselves. I don't give a shit about what he said, she said. What I care about is now. This is bullshit, and I won't stand for it. Our government's lack of transparency is killing me. We have to fight to save the Brumbies. The numbers are dwindling to the ground. I will never stop until we move them from this living hell. The ISC are a bunch of lobbyists spinning bullshit everywhere they go. I do care about our environment, that's why ISC has to go. I raise eyes to the sky, Brumbies, and ask for your forgiveness. Humans like that don't deserve the positions that we have given them. I'm sorry, we couldn't do more sooner. Your deaths won't be in vain. We will fight so that your name remains in our history as one of Australia's biggest welfare disasters.
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. Before we get into the next hour, let's find out what's happening around the world and around Australia. Let's see the hysteria at the moment. South Koreans have been asked to immediately stop all outdoor activities as a brutal heat wave sweeps through parts of Asia, with local temperatures reaching record-breaking peaks. I think 1904 was when it reached that. So the hysteria is just showing you that history does repeat. You know, we're not all going to boil just yet. The next federal election may not be a two-horse race between Labor and the Coalition, with new polling putting One Nation ahead of the Liberals in primary support. Polling conducted by Roy Morgan discovered that if a federal election were held now, the Labor Party would win a majority against either One Nation or the Coalition. Australia has recorded its first mass mortality event caused by the H5N1 bird flu, with 74 cases now confirmed across the country. The good news is, though, the other 432 billion birds are fine, but 74. Sorry, I'm being quite rude, quite flippant. Instant Polls, by the way, is our official sponsor. If you want to increase your bottom line, boost your communication with frontline staff, and gather valuable data from your most important resource, your employees, then visit Instantpolls.online to learn more. Now, last week's poll on the Country Telegraph was, do you want the Brumby cull to stop immediately? And it's, do you want the country, do you want the Brumby cull to stop immediately? Now, the results, as I'm going through the pages here, there's a whole stack of them. A large number of votes were recorded, making it a significant result. And thank you for all those that did vote, because it is an important poll. In terms of responses, the majority of participants, 98.65%, chose absolutely and permanently as their answer. A small percentage of respondents answered no, that was 0.99%, unsure, 0.25%, and don't care, don't give a rat's, 0.12%. The demographic breakdown shows varying response patterns across different age groups. Now, the age group 50 to 59 had the highest number of absolutely and permanently responses, followed by the age bracket of 60 to 69. The youngest age group, 16 to 20, had the least number of responses, which is quite alarming, because we need the younger ones to be questioning. Females predominantly chose absolutely and permanently, while males had fewer responses for the same option. Now, across different states, New South Wales, they had the highest number of absolutely and permanently responses, followed then by Victoria and Queensland. The Northern Territory had the lowest participation. So that was our poll, which is, it's very interesting, isn't it, if you think about it. We're banging on about it. We think that the cull should stop immediately. Now, there is no evidence at all on what they're saying that the horse is doing. Zero evidence, just absolute propaganda. And we know that and they know that, but the machine is well oiled because they're backed and financed by the New South Wales state government. You also have the federal government double dipping, and we also have carbon offsets, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this hour. So all very interesting. And I think, in my own humble opinion, it would seem that government has not stopped smelling. It stinks to high hell. And I think we do need to replace the Minns government in New South Wales. However, what do we get in return? Is it the same policy, just different faces? Who knows? Anyway, this is the Country Telegraph.
Gone so quiet now, no birds sing in the dawn. The creek still winds through ancient stone, but everyone is gone. I walk the ridge where I was born and call into the sky, but only echoes answer me, and I don't know why. There's sorrow in the snow tonight, there's fear beneath the trees. The mountain holds its breath for us and trembles in the breeze. Why am I so alone? Why in the only country I have known? What did I do wrong? Can somebody tell me why I was only living free beneath the mountain sky? Why do the gentle always cry? They speak of me in hard words now, as if I have no name, as if my heart is not a heart, as if I feel no pain. But I have loved our country well, the grass is rain and stone. I carried life across these hills and never walked alone. My mother's breath is in this wind, my father's in this ground. The bloodline of the mountain horse still echoes all around. Why am I so alone? Why in the only country I have known? mountain sky. Why? To the gentle always cry. I remember my mother's shadow moving softly through the snow. I remember running beside her where the mountain rivers flow. Now I call into the silence and only echoes reply. The wind knows where they've gone, but she won't tell me why. The valley wears a heavy grief. The stars seem far away. Every sound upon the mountain makes me fear another day. I never wanted anything but to stay where I belong. I only knew the ancient pathways, the rivers and the songs. And if you walk these mountains with me, you might understand the love a heart can carry for both family and land. Why am I so alone? Why in the only country I have known? What did I do wrong? Can somebody tell me why I was only living free beneath the mountain sky? Why do the gentle always cry? Country, keep my family near, hold them safely in your light. If they wander through the darkness, guide them gently through the night. And if one heart still remembers, if one voice still sings our song, then perhaps we're not forgotten, and perhaps we still belong.
And, well, I can hear Marilyn in the background. Calm down, Marilyn. You'll be on soon. This is the Country Telegraph. Beautiful song there from Billy D. And we'll speak to Billy D shortly. The Varroa mite is seriously affecting honey producers in Australia. And, of course, this will impact ultimately on the food industry, given the importance of bees in pollination of plants. Danny Lefebvre is the CEO of the Australian Honeybee Industry Council. Danny has been a commercial beekeeper for 15 years with the Australian Bee Services, the ABS, and is experienced in providing pollination services and honey production in South Australia. Danny has been involved in the primary industries his whole career with a strong background in agricultural science, RD&E, research and development, and agribusiness consultancy. He is passionate about rural industries, and in particular the honeybee industry. First of all, Danny, thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
How serious is it at the moment for our bees, and not only for the bees, but for Australia?
Yeah, look, it is pretty serious at the moment. So we first found varroa mites in June of 2022 in Newcastle in New South Wales. It's since spread throughout New South Wales into Queensland, Victoria and South Australia. Largely established across New South Wales and at the peak of its establishment now in Queensland. And beekeepers are yet to feel the brunt of varroa in Victoria, South Australia. Through New South Wales, the feral bees, which are those unmanaged colonies in the landscape, have largely disappeared because varroa mite, left unmanaged, does kill hives. And so now we're starting to see those effects on those pollination-dependent industries where there's a lack of pollination through what they previously enjoyed as free pollination services from those feral bees.
just in layman's terms, what happens to what can we expect if the bee and the elimination of the bee, the honeybee, keeps moving in in that direction it's taking now? What happens to the rest of Australia?
Yeah, sure. So we know varroa mites, like I said, when they're not managed by a beekeeper, will kill a colony. So we know in Australia we have really high levels of feral bees in the landscape, which do nothing for the beekeepers and do nothing for the environment, but it has provided free pollination services for growers for many, many years. As those feral bees disappear, as the varroa mite wipes them out, that will impact that free pollination services and potentially impact the ability for growers to set fruit and veg who are not using managed colonies. The impact on managed colonies, the 850,000 colonies that are managed by the 46,000 beekeepers across the country. What we've seen globally as the varroa mite enters the country and starts establishing is we do see a downturn. We know in New South Wales already, since we started learning to live with varroa, that 35% of those commercial beekeepers, those beekeepers that are managing 50 hives or more, have deregistered and potentially left the industry. We know that around 40% of Queensland beekeepers are talking about leaving in the next 12, 24 months. So we are going to see a significant downturn in the industry.
It's terrible. And there's other things too. Fake honey, I've been finding out more about, which supermarkets are pushing, which is despicable to say the least. But what does the AHBIC believe needs to be done now? You have an 11-point plan to governments. Tell us about that plan.
So we've had a lot of support requests from industry that have been going to government by individuals, and so there hasn't been a lot of clarity of what beekeepers need as support to keep them in the business. So what we did is we pulled together 40 industry, government, RDC representatives from around the country. We put them in a workshop, and we actually brought to the table 55 actions. They were all the actions gathered from industry. We went through each of those actions, stress test them, see if they were deliverable, impactful, and distilled those down to 11 actions that we then brought to the decision makers within government. So last week we had a decision makers roundtable where we had the higher level decision makers in each of the jurisdictions come to the table and RDCs in industry and work through those actions, and we were seeking agreements or in principle agreement to those actions. Unfortunately, those decision makers came to the table. They didn't provide any new money or any new activities and just stated the existing activities that they're already delivering, which isn't enough to keep beekeepers in the game at the moment.
Why didn't they do more? I mean, truly, if they, I won't say that, it's rude. So just the simple question, why didn't they do more?
Look, it's a real a problem in that where we are sitting at the moment with varroa, we don't sit in any existing government frameworks. So we are now moved out of a biosecurity emergency response framework where funds can be released relatively easily. And we're not in a natural disaster by definition of the government's framework. So we're sitting in between those two mechanisms that would normally provide additional support. Largely when a pest comes in the country and an eradication attempt hasn't worked and it's been decided to go to management, it's largely up to the industry and the jurisdictions to then manage that pest going forward. Our argument here is that varroa is a much more significant pest than we've seen in just about any other case. In fact, we're arguing that there's a market failure in that without targeted, time-limited government intervention, we're going to see significant depletion of the industry, which then is going to have a flow-on effect down the supply chain, affecting those pollination-dependent industries and potentially our food security moving forward. And so the beekeepers are being asked to bear the full cost of managing this pest for the benefit of a greater food chain.
I see that feral bees are not affected by the mite. Why is that?
So feral bees, which are the wild European honeybees, unmanaged feral bees in the landscape, are definitely affected. So without varroa mites being managed and intervention, it kills the colony. So those feral bees die. It takes about 2 to 3 years once varroa's in the district, and they disappear. And that's what we've seen through large parts of New South Wales. Our native bees, though, 2,500 different species of native bees in Australia, varroa mites do not affect our native bees. So there's no impact on our native populations, but certainly those wild feral European honeybees or those feral bees, it certainly does wipe them out.
It's looking grim, to say the least. Anything promising? Any new research findings that might bring a bit of a smile to our faces?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of stuff in the pipeline, particularly in the R&D space. So you might have seen recent articles in the media around spider venom as a potential peptide solution. We've got fungus that's potentially able to kill the mites and not the bees. We've got RNAi technology, which is a technology that interferes with the mite's ability to breed and reproduce, reducing its populations. So we've got a number of different things in the pipeline, but they are a number of years away, and we know to get these things to market can be a 5 or 10 year horizon. What we're looking for is that short-term support to minimise the impacts.
I just had someone write into us. They were asking, why are we calling the wild bees feral?
Because they're unmanaged, they're in the environment. They do provide that free pollination service, but they're not providing any other benefit. They don't help beekeepers, they don't help the environment, and so they are well known as feral, as you would have feral goats, feral pigs, feral sheep. In the environment, they're uncontrolled.
Can you just, as a suggestion, what can we do as the public? What can we do to help?
Well, the main reason the beekeepers are citing that they are leaving the industry is profitability. So their ability to stay here and stay profitable and sustainable is the number one reason. So managing varroa is a big impact on that. We're adding about 30% of the cost base to managing hives, and we're not seeing any upside. So our markets are not maturing as quick as the varroa is spreading, so our beekeepers are really copping it in between. So what general public can do is buy honey. We just need our markets to increase that farm gate price, which is going to help the beekeepers. But it's really important when consumers are buying honey that they buy 100% Australian honey. It doesn't matter where you buy it from, because we're very confident as long as it's 100% Australian honey, we know that that's going to deliver value back to the beekeepers at the farm gate, which is going to improve their sustainability and help them become profitable and manage varroa mite moving forward.
It's an interesting problem we have, because honey, I mean, not all the time, but between Vegemite on toast, I love my honey on toast, and there's nothing better than really good high quality honey. How do you ensure that it is not trickery from a supermarket or a chain of supermarkets? How do you know it's not trickery? How do you find the real Australian honey? Is there something on the back of it that says these bees are born and bred in Australia or something like that?
Yeah, look, it's looking for that produced and packed in Australia label, that origin label. So buying 100% Australian honey, you can be confident that it is Australian honey. We have multiple layers of safeguards in our industry, right from the beekeeper at quality assurance through to the packer. We even have independent federal government testing that we fund as an industry to keep check on what's on the shelf. And we've done independent testing ourselves as well as the federal government. And to tell you the truth, we have not found any issues at the supermarket shelf level. Where we are finding the issues is that smaller retailers who don't have those level of controls about what goes on the shelf is where we're seeing that. And the issues are really about the really cheap imported honey. So buying 100% Australian honey, as long as it says 100% Australian honey, we are confident that that honey is real honey and the best you'll buy in the world.
Yeah, and I thoroughly applaud you for that part, by the way. If somebody wants to find out more about your organisation and how they can help, how do they do that?
So head off to our website, honeybee.org.au is our website, and look, we're a representative body advocating for the industry, and we're always looking for supporters to help us be able to achieve more for our beekeepers.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for your time. This is the Country Telegraph.
If you want a new oil refinery, if you want to dig up and drill for oil again in this country. I'd love to see it and refine it and turn it into petrol and diesel and all these wonderful products we need. Why the hell would you be imposing a carbon tax on it? Just get rid of it. So our plan is to scrap all of these carbon taxes, to scrap net zero and focus again on our own country. And if it's good enough for us to build a new oil refinery, it's good enough for us to build a new coal-fired power station as well. Because if you want a new
very graphic, but very. I think we need actually not the ones that follow the Brumbies, which my next two guests are going to talk about, but we need the general population to get involved. The apathy at the moment is quite disturbing, to say the least. Not those that love these animals, that are trying to do what they can to save their lives, and everybody within the Brumby community is trying to do that one thing, save their lives. It is, though, however, in my own opinion, like an octopus, just tentacles everywhere. And those tentacles are fighting with each other. You've got to stop playing right in the hands of government and ISC and all those. You will only succeed if you, one, tell more people, and secondly, act as a collective. There are no queens or kings in this, should be no kings or queens, because that distracts entirely the focus on what we should be doing. What we should be doing is focusing entirely on the Brumby, not ourselves. That's just my thoughts after having been to the Snowies and watching all the socials. It's we've got to get back on track. Simple as that. As for us, we take no sides. There is no side except that of the Brumby anyway. So let's all pull our heads in some, who I'm referring to, and just move forward as a collective, not as king makers or queen makers or the ruler of the universe. We have one of those, and that's Donald Trump. It's scary, but he wants to be that. He wants everything. Marilyn Nuske is a principal lawyer, animal rights lawyer, and founder of Brumby Action Group. Now, Marilyn has been involved in animal conservation work for 15 years, as well as her work in advocating for Brumbies. She's been involved in dingo conservation also. We've asked Marilyn to explain what many of us have heard about Snowy Hydro 2.0 and how the environmental destruction of this project is offset and how this has driven policy on the Brumbies, the Kosciuszko National Park. It seems to make little sense that on one side, environmental destruction is wholly excused and offset by the mass killing of animals whose impact on the environment could be negligible or unproven. No evidence, by the way, in the case of the Brumbies. Marilyn, thanks for joining me.
Hi, Mike.
And is it cold today in Castlemaine?
It's not too bad. It's about 5 degrees.
Isn't that terrible? I mean, I can expect that in the Snowies, but anywhere else in this country, I would rather have about 31 every day, maybe 34 at times, barbecue, that sort of stuff, boardies, board shorts, T-shirt. Where you are, you're trying to copy the Snowies, I'm sure, make it really, really cold.
I'm happy if it's 10 degrees, Mike.
Yeah, and none of that attire that I was talking about would ever be worn if I lived in your. Although you get very warm in summer, and so does the snow.
It does.
But at the moment, when we did the broadcast at Tumbarumba, I have to tell you, we have a convertible, and it looked like kind of an Ashton's tent covered in snow. It was, or not snow, but ice. It was just so cold. Can you explain, because Jen and I and others, and Brett Smith even, have talked about carbon offsets. And he's an ex-detective, and he's going, oh, hello, hello, hello. How do they apply to the Kosciuszko National Park?
Oh, Mike, I'll do my best. When I first started looking into it, it was one thing. But when it's like any sort of research, I've got a mountain of papers now, and I haven't read them all, but I've been able to get an overview of what's actually happening. I'm going to have to take off my glass. I still haven't had my reading glasses prepared, so I have to sort of do this thing. So I just want to start by saying it's what they're calling it, the Kosciuszko offset strategy, and that was developed in about 2018. And conversely, National Parks and Wildlife Services developed offset projects. As we all know, Snowy 2 is the largest renewable energy project in Australia. So there were two set of guidelines developed for the provision of Snowy 2 main offsets. They're really calling them biodiversity offsets, and they're delivered in a like-for-like conservation action, as they describe them. And it's primarily to deliver benefits to threatened species or ecological communities impacted by the Snowy 2 work. So it's basically about the impact of Snowy 2 work. So it is like a carbon offset, but they're calling it a biodiversity offset. Interestingly, and it's probably not very important, it began in about 2018, which is basically the year when the Brumby Heritage legislation was enacted in Parliament. I've reviewed a lot of the documents, and there's a few things that come out primarily is that the potential conservation matter that seems to be about Brumbies primarily is an allegation, and I call it that, innocent until proven guilty, is that the Brumbies harm alpine sphagnum bogs and associated fens. Now, we've all heard about that and seen photos, that is, people who've been following these issues. So they established a program to monitor and quantify the impacts of feral horses, as they call them, on alpine bogs and fens, including fencing of some currently impacted alpine bogs and fens to monitor assisted and unassisted recovery. Now, Brumbies don't go higher into the subalpine and alpine areas. These areas are 1,600 to 2,175 metres above sea level. So that for a start, but you've also got the alpine oak skink, where Brumbies are mentioned, for evidence of direct disturbance and understand the impacts of feral horses on the species habitats. It amazes me because when you get deeper down, and I hope we've got time, so we've got the strategy and the project. What the project does is to manage the offset funds paid to National Parks and Wildlife Services. An action plan is developed for each threatened species, threatened ecological communities and ecosystems, and that's managed by National Parks and Wildlife Services. The plan, anyway, so what I'm going to say now, I start to delve into the documents. I will post links to the documents I'm talking about on Brumby Action Group because I think it would be important. Like, I've gone through it, and I think anyone who's interested might want to go into it deeper, and I will be going deeper. I haven't had a lot of time to do this as well as I really wanted to anyway. So what we know is under conditions specified in the Snowy 2 approvals, Snowy Hydro must pay up to $92.9 million in biodiversity offsets to the National Parks and Wildlife Services by 2024. That's been paid. This amount will be referred to as the offset funds. And those offset funds must be implemented to activities carried out under the Kosciuszko offset strategy and under plans over at least the next 20 years. That doesn't mean to say that that 92.9 million paid by 2024 is the end of it. Obviously, while Hydro 2 continues, they're still going to impact Kosciuszko National Park. The core management of Kosciuszko National Park includes the implementation of the Wild Horse Heritage Management Plan and implementation of conservation action plans for assets of intergenerational significance. So then I looked at the threatened species and ecosystems likely to have residual impacts from Snowy 2. And goodness me, it seems to be a lot of the species that have been attributed, damage has been attributed to Brumbies. Here we've got the alpine she-oak skink. We've heard all about that. The broad-toothed rat. Now, this is going to have residual impacts from Snowy 2. Now, the broad-toothed rat, that is one of the species that during that ghastly production of feral, which we all know about, produced by the ABC 5 or 6 years ago, people from Reclaim Kosci were talking about the broad-toothed rat. It's the largest impact is from the Hydro 2. What else is there? We got the smoky mouse, another one that the Brumby has received the rap for. It's not, it's Hydro 2. So the objective also reflects a broader commitment by National Parks and Wildlife Services to not just maintaining biodiversity in our national park, but over time restoring and improving biodiversity where it has been impacted by a range of factors. For example, feral animals, changed fire regimes, or development activities. Now, you've got such a contradiction there, I think, because Hydro 2 is not going to stop. It's not going to stop for some years, is it? So how on earth are they going to manage that? But I've printed sections of the material where they're actually returning those species to the park, even though they're being, so it's like a round robin. So,
Just to also interject here, Your Honour, but I'm just thinking though, and actually we will run out of a bit of time, but I don't mind keep going, by the way, because it's very important.
Well,
it does seem like a rort, and a former detective said the other day to me that if they say they've killed umpteen thousand of Brumbies, which they haven't, because there aren't that many there, but if they say they've killed, just as a figure, 4,000 Brumbies, and those 4,000 Brumbies eat X amount of grass and their carbon offsets and blah, 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 they make more money. As simple as that, isn't it?
well, exactly. And they've got to do something with it. They can't just, National Parks and Wildlife Services have it sitting in a trust fund, if you like, but they've got to use it. They must use it. And Hydro 2, it's $1 billion project, and it's coming from the Commonwealth. So, yeah, and they're blaming big Brumbies, because they're easy to see, and it takes focus away from the real issues, which I'll discuss, of fires, infrastructure, climate change, particularly fires. So quantifying the impact and benefits that must be delivered, offset actions must be implemented for each of the 19 threatened species, which includes ecosystems and animals, if you like. So trying not to. So the estimated impact of the population size, density, or other suitable metric, they use a metric system for evaluating the damage. 229 hectares of habitat for the smoky mouse was identified in the environmental impact assessment as being impacted by the project. So poor old smoky mouse is really living it tough, and it's not Brumbies.
Yep, I totally agree. As you flip the pages, it's lucky you haven't got 432 chapters there containing 6,000 pages. I mean, I know it's a big.
It's a huge thing. So the conservation status and number of hectares impacted by each of the threatened species. We alpine she oak 213, and this is hectares. Eastern pygmy possum, another one that the Brumby's been blamed for, 602, and smoky mouse 229. So we can see that the little species that are being blamed for loss, because these are threatened and endangered species, it's not the Brumby.
But they have no evidence, and this is the thing. It's just
they don't. Well, there is evidence of what is doing it, but they're not talking about it. They're not producing it, and that is, wild cats. Poor old wild cats. It's not their fault, but the wild cats and foxes, they are part of the big problem. But you never see them coming up much in documents like this, most of which I got from National Parks and Wildlife Services. But you've got to know how to scrounge around for it.
I think Dr. Arian Wallach says that again, there's no even evidence for that. It's just hearsay, and that the evidence does not show that the cats do that, and the foxes do that.
Well, that's something else that she's working on now, I think. So that will be a bit of an eye opener. But it's Arian is really into compassionate conservation, and that after a while, all species become almost akin to native, because all these animals are living symbiotically. I mean, the Brumby's been living there for 200 years. I think the Brumby has been living with the smoky mouse and other populations of native wildlife for 200 years, and they get along pretty well. It's only when you've got people who have philosophical values opposed to having Brumbies in a national park. So the way they calculate it too, the biodiversity gain in KMP has to be calculated to 120% of the biodiversity loss. I took a while and I thought, okay, so it's in kind, but then they add on another 20%. So then I'm moving on in this maze of documents. I won't go there. And then I found predator monitoring. When it came to predator monitoring, and we're talking about feral predators like feral cats and European fox, the results have so far demonstrated in trying to rid of them, and I'm assuming they're using like buckets and buckets of 1080 poison, that control techniques used did not affect cat and fox. This may be due to several factors. The area was not saturated with baits and traps. I don't believe that. Traps were set adjacent to roads. So, in other words, there's very limited control. They don't. This is what it's all about. The Brumbies, isn't it? Everything we see in the news, the feral horses, and I believe it's to take focus away from the reality of what is really happening in Kosciuszko National Park. So, here we go. Page 14 is horses and the bogs and fens. That's the big one. So then we go. The project has undertaken limited. This is from 222 to 23. By then, they'd taken limited action plans, limited expenditure to date. This is because during the first 4 years, the focus was in contributing to planning approvers and finalising leases and licenses. But they knew how to shoot. They knew how to shoot the Brumbies, didn't they? Even though there was no evidence. There was no evidence, no real evidence. But I guess they had to be seen to be doing something. So the financial summary for 2018 to 2023 shows that by then there was 61 million paid over to National Parks and Wildlife Services. So they were really cashed up to start with the aerial shooting. And that's when 2023, 2024 is when they spent $8 million of that 61 million in aerial shooting, because they had to get rid of some of that money. They actually had to. They had to use some of that money. So the financials go on, and I'm not. I know we're running out of time. So then we come to the bogs, alpine bogs and fens. Horse explosive fencing was put in place in Wilderness Cosy Park. This is not, but they seem to spend, when you get into the financials, they spend a lot of money upgrading camping grounds and, not less about the real conservation. It doesn't seem to be about real conservation.
It's
a hell
not.
of a lot. No, it's not.
It's not, is it? And the worst thing is, and I said before, and you heard me say it, that our biggest job is not the infighting. Our biggest job at the moment is to let the mass population know. And what we're fighting, or we're trying to get cut through a very well-organised group of people, the ISC, the government, state and federal, and other organisations, and even the Conservatives aren't much better, because don't forget they were in power in 2018 when they set the parameters up. So you have all these things. The information operation it's working to a T with the Australian public. Then they use the legacy media and other independent media just to do a bit of nudging or a bit of swaying to get the people to understand that what we're doing is needed to save the Kosciuszko National Park. So what we need to be doing, I think anyway, is going after the authors of, for example, what you have in front of you, those pushing the cases. Because this is, again, whether you agree with what happened in COVID, this is the same rule book, the same playbook. Discredit those that have a different opinion. Discredit those that are fighting for the Brumbies. And that's what they do. If you look at the reports, it's almost like, aren't they lovely, lovely people? Not much else to do, but they have their heart in the right place. Thank goodness for the ISC or the state government or federal government. They know what to do. They know to protect the corroboree frog and all these things, there is no evidence at all. It's propaganda.
Mike, it is. And if we've got I'll get there. One thing I wanted to say, there's a section in this particular document. Who prepares these documents? It's the bureaucrats. I hate to say it. It's bureaucrats informed by those lobbyists and so on that we're talking about. Anyway, there's a section in here about heritage. So the Snowy 2 planning scheme approvals do not require the payment of heritage-specific offsets. However, the national parks will use offset payments to benefit Aboriginal cultural heritage and historic heritage within KMP. Now, that's as it should be, I think. But where is our heritage? Where is the heritage of the people who have been living in around that area? They have heritage. It is their cultural heritage. It's Australia's cultural heritage. That is not taken into account. And I guess that is where all Brumby advocates come from. We feel deeply it's part of our heritage. Why else would they have had 200, they weren't Brumbies, I don't think, but galloping around the arena at the opening of the Olympic Games at that occasion years ago.
Were Brumbies. There were Brumbies there. And also in equestrian events, they actually use Brumbies. So they're not
Oh.
feral, and this feral thing is just a part of the process to discredit whatever you want to stand up for, and that's what they do. It's called an information operation, and that's all governments do it. I don't mean to cut you off, but we do have to go.
Oh, I know, but I've got. Anyway,
I know.
what
Keep going.
another thing that all right, God, it's all I can say is that it's a beat up. The broadtooth rat and the poor little broadtooth rat is not being harmed by the Brumby. It's, as I've said, so many other things: climate change, infrastructure, ski slopes. So
Snowy 2.0.
and now the ecosystem offset funds of it's now up to 124,500,000 will protect and enhance alpine bogs. It's deer. And I really love all animals. I wouldn't want to see any animal aerially shot. How they manage those species that they've let out of control is they've got to find humane methods. But it's not Brumbies because they don't go up there. In the summer months, deer go up into those areas because it's cooler. So we're talking big money, and it's going to be increasing. What I have in this particular document is a picture that we've all seen of that boggy area that they say here, before and after. And this is what Brumbies do. Brumbies don't do that. Another document I've got is an ecological health performance scorecard, which confirms basically all of what I said. There's action plans for the eastern pygmy possum and the broadtooth rat. A lot of it says, how are we going? And they say, oh, it's too soon to tell. But it's not too soon to aerially shoot from 2023 to 2028 and spend $8 million, but they don't even know. They're not acknowledging what's doing it. They're using millions to aerially shoot Brumbies. They're taking pressure off themselves. And then the final document that I was going to talk to, I've got mountains here, was the failures in environmental compliance of the Snowy 2 project. This is published April 2012. It's arms and arm's length. There are so many. This report demonstrates Snowy 2 and its contractors are not meeting expectations for a construction project in a highly significant and sensitive location. But it goes on and on. There are pages of things, non-compliance. It just goes on and on. And that means money. Money to...
It does. It's all about money. And the invasive species here that's doing the most damage to the Snowy Mountains, Kosciuszko National Park, are humans. And the vehicle is Snowy 2.2 and 2.0, sorry. That's it.
Mike, I also feel invasive species councils are funded primarily by philanthropic organisations. They do get small grants from the government, but it's some of those philanthropic organisations are really opposed to having Brumbies in the park, even though it's part of our Australian connection to the park. I think, and we've got Craig Downer coming on board with a webinar shortly, and he created a wonderful thing called reserve design. He applied that to areas where they've got white horses, and I am going to start lobbying for part of Kosciuszko National Park. All this money's floating around. Why are they wasting it on one, aerially shooting our beautiful heritage Brumbies? Some of that money, a lot of that money, could be spent on setting aside areas using reserve design. It's a natural inhibitor, keeping Brumbies away from sensitive areas that they're not damaging anyway. I don't know why they're not doing that, and I shall be lobbying for that. The other thing is I have found some significant anomalies in the introduction of aerial shooting, and I'm presently completing research and will be finalising a report in the not too distant future. It's significant. major anomalies that I think should be investigated properly. And I'll be doing my best to make sure it happens.
We're going to grab you again this week. I should rephrase that. We're going to talk to you again this week. And I think we need to keep talking about this because there is so much more that we haven't even touched on. I think the greatest threat to the Kosciuszko National Park are those two-legged things called people or humans.
Definitely. The money. The money.
It's all about money. But we'll do part 2 of this, if you don't mind, probably around about Thursday. Get Jen to have a chat to you because I think we need to look into this more. And again, I just would like everybody to just focus on the Brumby, focus on the ISC, focus on those who are the ones who are perpetrating the propaganda and the killings.
Can I just say very briefly again too? I don't know who's done it, but somebody has created a fake Brumby Action Group page on Facebook, which really, it's just, I don't know why they're wasting their time. They're fundraising. It's called, they've used our banner. It has a P after group, but I've now found out they've created an Instagram page, which only has 9 followers, but I feel quite defensive about whatever it is they're posting. They've reached into the history and found photos of me from when I ran for Parliament in 2022 and beyond, going back. I don't care. They're out there, but why bother? So I don't know who's doing it, but I've got a bit of an idea. It could be one of 2 people. It's got to be somebody, but there are 2. It could be, so, and it's not the first time. I will be taking it up, not only with the cyber police, but with other, investigative officers. I mean, it's just wrong.
It is terrible, but this is just part and parcel of the whole thing to discredit you and just to. It's to do damage, create chaos.
Well, it doesn't damage me because everybody knows Brumby Action. Well, those people who are interested know Brumby Action Group. They know we've been around for a long while. We're doing our best, and that's about it. Obviously, somebody doesn't like what I'm saying. Well, unfortunately, all I do is talk the truth.
Good on you. And that's all. And that's all. Actually, I used to say that's all that's required. It is not what is required to say the Brumbies, but the truth should be the premise of the whole thing of the protection of the animals. Just tell the truth.
That's what it's about.
Do have to go, Marilyn. If somebody wants to find out more about you or the Brumby Action Group, how do they do that?
Just pop onto Facebook and Brumby Action Group. We're there, and you can tell the difference with us because we've got 34,000 followers, people who love to join in and like what we publish and talk about. So that's good. And you'll find Sarah Michaels there. She's co-admin and a team of lovely moderators who pick up all these trolls and awful people that we boot out the door.
Good on you.
We're just there.
Kick them up the bum. That's what you need to do. Marilyn Nusky, thank you so much for your time. I do believe it's hit 6 degrees in Castlemaine, so you can go out now for your cross-country run, as you do every day.
Go for a swim.
Yeah, now you're telling fibs. Good on you, Marilyn. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
This is the Country Telegraph.
I didn't choose this life. I was born to live it. So was Dad, his dad, and his dad before that.
Come on, ladies.
You're supposed to be slowing down, you know.
It's payback for all the free labour you got out of me as a kid.
I learned from watching my mum and dad and how they work together. So does my sister Sally.
Any trains?
Righto.
Feet up.
I'll always remember these days. It's the happiest days of my life. Together as a family.
Oh, you're so lucky I love you.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that about right, isn't it?
I don't know how you're going to deal with all this.
Deal with what?
$6 million debt?
Most farmers are in this amount of debt. As farmers, we gamble with the weather every day, and it's a risk we take. You have no idea what I'm going through.
Maybe you should talk to someone.
Oh my God, no, I'm fine.
No, you're not, Alison.
You and your dad's coward.
Play a game of footy, all right?
Where's heaven?
What?
Where's heaven?
The sky, I think.
Can we go there?
And welcome back to the Country Telegraph. I'm Mike Ryan. It's let me look at the time. It's just after 9 o'clock. Gone over. Billy Dean has been sitting there. Or Billy D. Get down. Get up. She's been waiting. Thank you, Billy Dean, who's an award-winning Australian storyteller, songwriter, filmmaker, and co-founder of the Deep Peace Trust Animal Sanctuary, Rewilding at australia.com.au, and Wild Pure Heart. Now, for over 40 years, she's been dedicating her life to protecting wildlife, wild horses, and farmed animals while creating stories, films, books, and music that inspire a deeper relationship with nature. Billy's mission is simple yet profound: to help create a culture where kindness is normal and cruelty becomes unthinkable. Her latest songs, inspired by Australia's Brumbies and a natural world under threat, which it is, a part of the growing body of creative work calling for compassion, hope, and a new cultural story for Australia. We're going to talk to Billy today about the debate that rages about wild horse sanctuaries and why some are so opposed, and the reasons when wild horses are under just threat, existential threat. They're going to, they could just vanish if we don't do the right thing and try and save these beautiful horses. Billy, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.
Sorry for the wait. We have.
Oh, that's okay.
I do. They talk more than me.
Well, it was very informative to hear what Marilyn had to say. I mean, we all knew that Snowy 2 was responsible for so much, but it's kind of depressing to hear it again. And I have to say that it's really frustrating to talk to all these people who are so brainwashed, and you say it's not the Brumbies, it's the humans, and they absolutely ignore it. They cannot hear that, and I say go down and have a look, and they just can't. They just absolutely no, it's the Brumbies, and I find it really disheartening. And I just wonder how they're so brainwashed. How can they be so brainwashed, Mike?
It's called propaganda. In our past life, which we're sort of bringing it back slowly now, it's information operation, and that's what they do. They pump a particular, like advertising. You keep saying that McDonald's are the best burgers in the world, and that's why they keep doing it, to make sure that you don't forget and that it sits in your brain. And then you start, without thinking about something, you always think, Maccas are the best. Well, in this case, the horses are terrible. They're big, they've got big feet, they're stomping on all those poor animals. In fact, who knows, they could be eating those pygmy possums. They got wings, pigs can fly. I mean, but they actually believe it. And if you go back to COVID, I mean, I keep going back to that, but there were all these things that were put out. And if you look at the numbers that got a shot, and I'm not going to get into, if they should or they shouldn't have, but most of those people that got the shot went on the advice of the government. And where was the evidence? Anyway, that's just... So the same thing with this. People are saying that these horses are terrible. And you look at Channel 9 for their 20-second, quick grab, saying that these horses are killing the frogs, flying, eating elephants, got 10 heads, all that sort of stuff. They go, oh, I thought so.
And people believe it.
They do. They haven't got 10 heads, they've got 9.
And they're exploding numbers.
They are. I mean, did you know that they have 6 foals a day? That is just terrible.
Shocking.
Hey, look, onto the wild horses, because everyone's up in arms about everything at the moment, which I wish they'd just stop it.
I'm not looking at it. I don't. I keep away from that. If I see the infighting, Yeah, I've said my piece years ago. We need to be united, and I'm not interested in infighting.
All the kingmakers and queenmakers, and I can't stand it. It doesn't do the horse any good. If I was a horse, I'd be saying, look, why am I a horse? Why can't I be something else? Anyway, who do the wild horses belong to? Everyone and no one?
I think they belong to no one. You know, it's I have a saying. Animals aren't here for us; they're here with us. And I really think that we need to start going back to the old ways where we used to see them as nations. So they're nations, they're kingdoms in themselves. And I think that they're sovereign beings, and we really need to start holding them in reverence and respect, and not thinking that anyone belongs to us. That's ownership, that's domination, that's control. We don't own anyone. We are here with them. And I always like to say we're here with hearts and hands to help. And that's all. We're there to help.
Yeah.
So when they're in trouble, if there's a drought on or a flood, we're there to help. We're not there to control. We're not there to dominate. And I think it's time we all lived in peace. I really do.
I do too, and I don't know what it is, but maybe it's just the last 5 years all coming together and reinforcing that that if someone said to me once, if there weren't people, it'd be a great planet.
I think so. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I find people quite terrifying. I'm so used to living here just among hundreds of animals. And the wild, and every day is filled with this wonder and this beauty and all the things that they get up to. And so when I go out into the world, it's kind of a culture shock.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Not just this country, but we are leading the way as we do in some things, and that's the propensity to kill. And got to kill that. You know, if it moves, shoot it. If it doesn't, chop it down. And it's sort of, it's been part of our, a little bit part of our. I mean, if you look at the Brumbies when they fought in the First World War, only one came back because we couldn't bring them back. They're going to bring back diseases and whatever. And I'm thinking, nah, it's not the way you treat, your fellow Aussies, because horses are very, very intelligent creatures. I look at Mr. Ed; he can talk.
I love that show.
So yeah, is that terrible? But that's giving our age away because who's Mr. Ed? Hello, I'm Mr. Ed. Why do you think? Can you just,
actually, on that,
yes,
there is an old Native American saying that what we fear, we kill. So what we fear, we kill, and also we don't stop and listen. There is a language of silence among every animal. They speak a language of silence, and the old ones learnt to drop down and listen. And this is something I was actually born with. We're all born with it. We're all born with this ability, but society tells us that we can't have it and it shuts down, but it didn't shut down in me. And you can feel it and if you're an open-hearted empath, you can feel everything. You can drop down and you can hear it telepathically, and everything has this language. And I think, and that's what this Native American saying was saying. If you don't, when you fear what you don't know, so you need to get to know these animals. And I think that there is a lot of fear among certain people about horses. And there's also this misunderstanding that these horses are domestic. They're not domestic, they're a wild being. And they're very gentle, and they have their ways. And but once you get to know them, it's a whole different ballgame, and we have to tell the stories and show the images of who these beings are and get people to get to know them. And I think that's one of the missions that I'm on, is to help people get to know who these beings are.
Why are these beautiful creatures, horses, under attack at the moment around the world?
Oh, well, I have lots of different thoughts about that.
Give me one.
Well, I'll give you two.
Okay, two. It's even better.
Well, there's one sort of very spiritual concept, is that they're very high frequency beings, and there's a bit of a war going on. So, get rid of the high frequency beings, distract people, cause people upset, make them fearful, get rid of anything that looks like freedom. And once we do that, then it kind of kills something in us. We're more controllable if we're in fear. So there's all that conversation, that narrative. There's another narrative that I have to do more research, but years ago someone sent me a document that was the Cunning's Montreal Biodiversity Framework. I think I've got that right. And I remember it was about midnight and I was reading it, and I just put in a submission to protect the Brumbies. And so I'd done all this work and I was quite emotional. And in those days I thought, well, we have to convince these people that, Brumbies aren't doing this damage, blah, blah, blah. But now I know that it's just a plan. They know they're not doing the damage. So this document, there was one line that really got me, and it was something like, we will be restoring nature for humans. For humans. There was we were restoring nature. We'll be restoring or reclaiming, whatever the word was, nature for all beings. There wasn't anything like that. It was for humans. And I looked at that, and I know I was tired, but sometimes the intuition kicks in, and I just thought, we're done. We're cooked. Because that's what they're going to do, and the animals won't get a say.
I agree with you 110%. And we are. The only way we can stop this is not with the groups we have now, because you need those that aren't aware. And then which they would like you not to do, then you need to take to the streets. Peter Finch was in a movie, you probably saw the one too, and said, you need to get mad, really mad, and then go out to the tops of your roofs and stuff. And,
remember that.
Yeah, and that's what we need. Now, whether we have that, I don't know. But that would stop. Now, they would stop you from having the protest, because how dare you protest about something good? How dare you go against what we've said that will happen and you must abide by? Who gives these people, Billy, who gives these people the right to tell us how this country will be? I mean, you look at did you vote for the ISC? Of course I didn't. Did you? Of course not. But who gives these people the right to decide on our direction, our future? Because I didn't and you didn't.
Well, I didn't even vote to be part of the Cunning's Montreal Biodiversity Framework. And apparently Australia joined up, and there's 132 countries who also joined up. So, this whole idea of nature for humans, and I'm seeing that played out right now, across the national parks. Penny Sharp has pledged something like 130 million to make them all very sanitary and, available for, city tourists to have fun. And I think that we need wilderness, and we need wild animals living in the wilderness and managing the wilderness, because that's what they're here for. They're here on this planet to do their work, and their work is not for humans, it's for the earth, and everything's interconnected.
It's very much like a 3D zoo, isn't it? You got the animals are choreographed, and they do that, stand on their head and hang from trees and whatever, but they're all captive. So what we have now is the National Parks and Wildlife Service and the ISC and government, all those sort of things. This time you can walk into the zoo, but we're going to control those animals. If we have more than 13 particular animal, bang it on the head, hit it on the head with a shovel. Look at the renewables up in our part of in Queensland's part of the world when you have the Great Dividing Range, putting in those wind turbines. Hit the koala on the back of the head with the shovel, and we've seen photos of that. So we have to somehow I think we need to say enough's enough, and we need the whole country to take to the streets and to say enough's enough. And even then, I don't know if that will be enough. What do you think?
I think that we really do have to get the truth out there somehow. I mean, that's one of the reasons I did the album, because it gives me an opportunity to get out and talk about it. But something else happened. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and she had a big birthday, and she played the music. So that was 60 more people who heard about the Brumbies, heard about the situation, danced to the music, loved the music, and the word got out. So, we really do need to, each of us, find our own way of spreading the truth and getting out there and talking to people. And I think that if we can do that, and if we can be brave enough and courageous enough to really focus on that, then perhaps we'll get more people. And I think people are waking up, they're opening their heart. But, like you were mentioning the propaganda machine, and, this is an old playbook. It was used, I'm afraid to say, in the 1930s. It was used way back in the witch hunts. And, I think we just need to become de-hypnotized. We need to break the spell, because it is kind of like a spell. And I talk about that in my music as well. They're using words like biohazard for deer now. It's language to create fear. And like I said, what we don't understand, well, we fear, and they understand that very well. So you fear, so you hate, so you kill. And I don't want to see that in Australia. And we're in a really, like I said before, we're in a really dangerous time in our history. And, people are becoming more and more violent. This whole, shooting animals thing, for fun, I mean, that's not how we should be. These are, like I said, they're nations, they're families, and they really need their families, their herds, their flocks, their mobs. We're doing irreparable harm in this country, because not only does that hurt the animals, it destroys something in us, but it also soaks into the land and is held in the air. When I was down in KNP a couple of years ago for a protest, I could feel the trauma. Everyone can feel the trauma. If you're sensitive, you can feel the trauma. And I don't even know how sensitive you need to be. I mean, it's palpable. And I don't know how the animals all felt really sad down there, really. And we didn't see many animals, and there was definitely no bird song. So, here's Jack Goff saying, oh, there's no biodiversity. And I'm thinking, no, there's not, because you're killing it all.
I think Jack's a very evil person. That's what I think. And I think he's incredibly stupid. And I don't mean that just because he's just stupid. I think he's an incredibly dumb, stupid person. And I think the bridge gluers who the members, 130 members, I think they're incredibly stupid too, dumb, absolutely insane, dumb people. But I also think they're very dangerous. Just on the rehoming, should horses be rehomed, and with the belief that once it's safe, they can then be released?
That's a really good question. My sense of these animals, after living with them for 20 years, is, as I said before, they hold a really special dignity and a wildness. They're not a domestic horse, but they're also individuals. And I think that's what we have to remember. But again, they're not here for us, they're here with us. And I have a sanctuary. We don't ride them, we don't use them, we don't do anything with them. I photograph them, I speak to them, I sing to them, I dance with them, I feed them a lot. But I'm their friend and they are heard, and it's a privilege to be accepted into that herd as a friend. And I've learned a lot. But there are certain individuals who would like to be a human partner, but not all of them. So it really depends on the individual. And you might get a curious, youngster who goes, "Oh, well, you can be my herd. I want to follow you, and you're teaching me some interesting things." But unfortunately, there's a lot of ego out there, and there's people who go, "Oh, yeah, I want to break in a wild horse." I don't even like the word break in. I have broken in wild horses and I ride a wild horse now. I've dominated that being, because that's really what it comes to. I've dominated that being and I've subdued that being, and so there's that bit that I don't like. I know there's some wonderful people out there, and they have Brumbies, and Brumbies have been rehomed, and they've been very, very lucky, and they're rehomed with other horses, so they're not totally without family. But I think that's the main takeaway, like we need, people who understand them again. These aren't domestic horses. They're wild. They've been living in a wild social group, and they go through a lot of trauma. And it's interesting because I took some hair to be analysed on a cyber scan. I don't know if you know those machines, but they read everything. They're out of Germany and they've been in use in Australia for quite some time for people, but they also have, I take all my animals there with my naturopath. And what she found on this horse, who is a little under the weather, is he's still holding trauma. And I'm thinking, trauma? Well, I suppose he lived through the fires, but we took it back. Now, his mother was trapped, and she was among she was actually one of the first, and she gave birth a short time later. So he wasn't actually trapped, but his mother was, and he is holding the trauma of his mother being trapped. So I think people need to remember that these horses need to decompress. They really need time. They need gentle time to recover from that trauma. He lives in a place of peace, and yet his body still has trauma. So when the shooting's going on, they know, and it activates all that trauma. Even if they don't look it, they might not look it. But there is a science that shows us that they still carry it, they still know what's going on. They hear it, they listen. They're so smart. They're beyond. And this is why I think they need a lot of respect and it's a difficult thing right now, because people are afraid that if we don't take them out of the park, they will all die. I think the park needs them. They need the park. That's their home. But it's, unless we can defeat the government, their lives are in danger. So I don't have an opinion on that right now. Everybody would like them to be left in the park, I think. And then they're free for everybody to just get that coherence from being around them. And the park definitely needs them. The wilderness needs them because we have no other large herbivore. They're the new megafauna. But rehoming has to be done really carefully, and I would hope that anybody who was rehoming understands that they are a social animal, they need their herd, they need decompressing, they need helping to heal from trauma, and not just be thought of as something that somebody, be sold on to someone who thinks they're going to use them to win ribbons and do this sort of stuff. And also to be a kid's pony. Kids' ponies are sold on and on and on and on and on and on, and that's, it's not right for any horse. It's not right for any horse, let alone a wild one. Who carries so much memory of what a horse really is. And like I said, they can befriend you and become a wonderful partner, and they will do that because they're a herd animal. But let's not think of them as something that we can use. Let's think of them as something that it's an honour. It's an honour to befriend a wild horse. And I think that that's what we really need to hold them in reverence, not as something we can use. And now I'm getting all emotional.
No, I'm glad you kept talking, because I have this. I don't understand why we're doing this to these beautiful creatures, and I can't. I know it's evil and corrupt and all that, but it doesn't lessen the pain. So I'm listening to you. I'm thinking, please keep going, because if I have to come back, it's not going to look great. And it is very sad. First of all, I think the most important thing to do right now is to stop the killing. Stop it. And then work out. People say, there are humane ways of euthanizing the horse. No, none of that. Just stop it.
There's no humane way to take the life of someone who wants to live.
That's it.
I'm sorry.
I agree with you.
Sorry, that's an oxymoron. I'm sorry, we
But
just
they
don't
keep
do that.
using that. We're going to do it humane. It's like, no, you're killing something. They don't want to die.
No, they don't.
So
they don't. They don't want to die, and they certainly don't want to go separated from their family and friends, and like they're a prey animal, so their herd is their protection. You'll notice when they go to sleep, there's always one or two standing guard. Always someone is standing guard. And without that, they're alone. And I think I'm getting off topic, but they, I've rescued quite a lot from sale yards and things that, they've, people want to get rid of them because they find that they're not domestic horses. And, if they've arrived here broken, and I think that's why, for me, putting them into risk at the hands of humans who don't really understand or are still back at that feeling that they're here for us to use and, be ridden to win ribbons, and, that's all ego to me. And but I see the broken ones, and the last one I took on, Pahara. I mean, they've all got brilliant feet, and her feet were not brilliant because what my farrier said was that she had stress laminitis from stress. And that's the thing, people don't understand. They're looking at a horse and they're not understanding that what they're seeing is a stressed horse. And what we did is we put her in a large yard where she could see and feel and decompress. And once her quarantine time was over, we let her out with the people who were with her, and she became part of what I call the unicorn herd. And she loved it. And now she's got a very handsome, newly gelded person, and they hang out together in a very large herd. But they're always together because they bond so deeply with their friends. So, yeah, we have to stop the killing.
We do.
And we have to stop it now. And I really, Mike, I don't know how, because these people are powerful, they've got money, they've got agenda, and they just seem absolutely determined, and they'll have their little drinkies and their celebration when every last horse is gone. And to change the culture is going to take time, and we really need to get on with it. We need to. And one of the things that I've been saying in my newsletters to people is, please keep telling the story of how you're kind. Do you support a sanctuary? Do you fund a sanctuary? Do you because sanctuaries are places of kindness, and that's the resistance and the rebellion, to have a place of kindness. Do you rescue bees from the water? Like I rescue ladybugs. Anybody who is happening to be in a water trough, you'll pull them out. Do you rescue ants who are in a piece of wood that's about to go into the fire? Our family is trained to always bang and make sure that there's absolutely no one who is going to burn, right down to the smallest insect. I mean, who wants to burn to death? It's about spreading those stories of kindness and reverence and respect. And we can all do that. We don't have to be writers. We don't have to be storytellers. But we can each start saying, there was an injured roo on the road, and, we called wildlife and we pulled, we respected that animal and we did this, because it's not about people up here doing ordinary tasks. It's about each one of us doing those ordinary acts of kindness that we should be doing every day, and we should remember who we are. In the scheme of things, we're part of this community of the forest, the community where all beings belong.
I agree with you. I think and that, by the way, is how we win, how we defeat what's happening to these terrible horses. We acknowledge the space we're taking up. We acknowledge that we are living with every other being, and they have, as I think it was David Attenborough said,
he says,
they have as much right as we do, and for us to even to be questioning that, it don't make any sense. So I think we, the old saying, if it moves, shoot it. If it doesn't, chop it down. It still runs pretty, thick in our blood at the moment, and we've got to stop that. And again, how to stop it? I think we truly become very clever, and we go after the ISC, after the stupid people there. You are very stupid people. You should never push people to with their backs against the wall, because they will come out fighting, and that's what we do. And we put pressure on the government, and we do it quickly, because if we don't, and the shootings are still happening, and if we don't, then the horses will not be here, and that's not only a disaster for the horses, of course, but it's a disaster for you, me, people down the street, for our country. It means that our heritage is being obliterated along with the history, and we've got to stop that. Billy, if we're going to play your song, which everybody loves, by the way, Save Our Brumbies. We must get a couple more off you, though, because I keep crashing those two.
I've got more coming.
Good on you. And because they are just brilliant. I love your music, love your the words, love the lyrics, love you, because you are truly an incredible person.
Well, back at you, Mike. It's so nice to have someone on our side. It really is. get the message out, because it's really heartbreaking. And, you know, the more this goes on, the more heartbreaking it gets. And I think it's not just about the horses, it's about our personal freedoms.
It is. Now, if somebody wants to find out more about you, how do they do that?
You can go to billydean.com, or with an IE, I am, or rewildingaustralia.com.au, or you can look us up on YouTube or at Wild Pure Heart. We have some videos there.
Good on you. And God bless you. You don't need any blessings. Share some with me. It might help me get to a place. I might end up, no, I won't end up there, but at least when you go to heaven, make sure you have a window and wave to me. It's lovely in here. Like that. You just wave like that. Good on you, Billy. I love you very much. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Our pleasure. This is the Country Telegraph.
Among the Brumbies, hear the wild call of the land. My heart breaks open softly as their breath falls on my hand. They've been here for 200 years, doing what wild horses do, healing country, holding stories, loving me and loving you. But now they stand in terror as the choppers fill the sky, and the bullets keep on falling, and they run and they die. Oh, please let our Brumbies live, let the wild ones still run free, for the shooting only wounds the land and you and me. The hills are quiet, empty, there's a trembling in the ground. You know this kind of sorrow doesn't fade, it lingers round. The blood sinks deep in silence, leaves a stain we cannot see, but the earth, she holds the memory of what was and what will be. There was a stallion strong and watchful, with a mane like wind and flame, and his mare so soft and gentle, each one knowing her own name. Such a family in the wild, such a life they wove each day. Tell me why we choose destruction when there is another way. Oh, please stop the shooting now, there's still another way. If you'd only pause and listen to what the people say. Oh, please hear us now, we're calling out in pain. Let the Brumbies run forever through the sun and through the rain.
Just love that. Love Billy. Love the song Save Our Brumbies. Just absolutely gorgeous. And thank you so much. We went way over time, but Marilyn, thank you for adding to our knowledge base, and the heartfelt. What you have to say is just gorgeous. And thank you. And Billy, thank you so much. We've got to do our best, more than our best. We have to make sure there are no more killings. It has to stop. Now, yesterday, when we were getting set up for today, because we do a lot of work, I came across, I didn't work with him, but I had a friend who worked with him, He was one of my bosses, a guy called Dennis Scanlon in Melbourne. He used to work at 3DB. And he used to work with Graham Kennedy. And Graham Kennedy had a show on Channel 9 called Coast to Coast. And for those who recall that crow noise he made, which got everybody so upset, and now it's used everywhere. Anyway, I found this clip, some of the highlights from Graham Kennedy, and his show was called Coast to Coast, just to end the gig on a bit of a lighter note. And I think Graham Kennedy, again, he was politically incorrect, but he did always communicate with his audience. Have a look at this. This is very, very funny.
My first erotic experience, I can't expand on that. I mean, I remember it as being a very tender, wonderful moment. I just wished at the time, I remember thinking, Cleo, I wish I had some company. I'd walk 1,000,000 miles for one of your smiles. Mammy. Oh, I've been doing this for so long I can't tell you. A lady from Wollongong rang earlier tonight asking if that was a mock crow call I made. I don't remember. I mean, you'd know if it was a real one. You go off air immediately. They come and turn the lights out while you're doing that. Oh, goodness. And listen to this. Yes. Why do they say in the beginning of the show, coast to coast, when there is only one continuous coast around Australia? What an F word. The coast to coast. Coast to coast means Sydney on this coast, on the east, isn't it? Yes. And all the way to Perth on the west coast. That's coast to coast. Fool. Thank God tennis is finished and Graham and Ken are back. At last, Channel 9, who have been deceiving us with recorded sport and all kinds of rubbish and lying to us. Thank God I put that bit in. An Adelaide woman says, the money spent on Graham would be better spent elsewhere. Oh, where? That's debatable. I don't think you watch our credits. If you watched our credits, you'd see this come up from time to time. Much of the money I receive for doing this goes to the Life Education Program to help young Australians lead a better and longer drug-free life. Would you like to see Australian youths live a miserable short life in the gutter with syringes? You slack-assed Adelaide tart.
That was Graham Kennedy, Coast to Coast, and if I was not afraid of being sued, I'd tell you some stories that my friend Dennis used to tell me about Graham Kennedy, but a magnificent communicator. And I think Australia is a much worse place, worse off by when he passed away, because I think Graham Kennedy, with all his naughty bits, is very, very good too. That's it for the show. Whoa, way over. 45 minutes over. Well worth it too. Great people on. Thank you so much to all our guests. Thank you to our audience too. This is up for replay, so you can just click on, sit back with a glass of rosé and enjoy, and cry too, because there are some very sad bits. And that's the way of the world, isn't it? It's a little sad at the moment. We need to make it a better place. We can start by stopping the killing of the Brumbies. Until tomorrow, have a great day. Thank you so much. Hello to Tumbarumba. What a great place it is. We're going to go back. And I didn't mind the cold, because you expect the cold. The cabin we're at the Tumbarumba Caravan Park, it needs to have a bit of a speaking to those magpies. You know, I hopped into the car and I brought out a bag of twisties, and I thought, oh, there's a Maggie there. I'll give it a twisty. And then there were 3 Maggies. And at the end, there was about 103 Maggies, all wanting a twisty. So we gave them a twisty, and I stopped when I had about a quarter of a packet left. They were coming out of everywhere. It's another guest. We've sucked him in too. Let's eat all his twisties. But a great place, and great cabins there, great people. Noel, Jess, Peter and Jeff, just brilliant. Macca, magnificent person. Anyway, go to Tumbarumba. It's a great place. This is the Country Telegraph. Until tomorrow, have a good one. Be good to yourself, to your neighbours, and be kind to animals.
Tell my fool I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Brumby hoofprints etched for generations in the snow. I've watched the foals become the mares, the stallions old and slow. Here in the snowy mountains where my life began, across hills, ridges and open plains my fellow Brumbies ran. I've led them through winter storms, drought and summer rain, but I can't outrun what follows now. Shield my family from this pain. My ancestors crossed the oceans, but I was born upon this land. These mountains are my birthplace, the Snowies are my clan. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. Tell my foal I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. Tell the wind I said goodbye. Stay close beside me, little one. The thunder isn't rain. The sky itself is hunting us, and I cannot stop the pain. I gather those I love and turn to face the sound. Though every instinct tells me run, there's nowhere left for us now. These mountains hold our memories, our family history. If home is where you're raised, then this is where we should be. Fall upon the ground, thunder again and again. My heart grows quiet as bullets rain. I thought I had more seasons, more rivers left to roam, more sunrises with my Kosciuszko clan before the mountains called me home. Tell them I was born here, my grandfathers fought their wars. Remind them that this was our home, the snowy mountains were ours. Tell my foal I knew her fear. Tell my mare I heard her call. Tell my foal I tried to save them. Tell the wind how Brumbies fall. Tell my foal I kept on running. Tell my mare I heard her cry. Tell the mountain I belonged here. said goodbye.